Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we're going to be focusing on how to play support with the hyper carry. So a lot of these things we're going to talk about can relate very much to playing enchanters, but you can do the same thing when playing with tanks. So if you watch a majority of my games, a lot of my games are me kind of stomping lane and snowballing and being very proactive and making a lot of plays on Thresh. But as you're going to see this game, the early game goes very poor, I make mistakes, my teammates are also losing lane, and then because we're very behind, and eventually Jinx becomes our kind of one carry, we have to play the game around Jinx for a lot of the game. And we're going to talk about my positioning and how I make her game a lot easier, and then also the things I could do better. Because definitely as a support player, I think my weakest part of the game is like playing around one carry, because I'm a lot more playing for playmaking, because a majority of games, again, obviously in solo queue, you're going to be having games where it's just like, yeah, you're kind of the carry as support, even when you're the engage. You're the one making the plays, you set up your team, they need to follow up, but that's not how every game is needed to play. And so when I watch this game back, there's a lot of opportunities for me to do more, and then there's also a lot of, you know, situations where we do position well, make good plays, and I want to talk about that. So we're just going to overall be focusing on how to play basically with a hyper carry for the most part. And early on in lane, we'll just talk through some of the lane phase. We don't have as much, but even just like little things like positioning, that I just blocked that Braum Q intentionally. Like this is a lane phase thing. This isn't necessarily about protecting hyper carry, but again, we're going to focus a lot on peel, which is basically protecting your teammate, and just blocking a spell that isn't dangerous to you, for example. Like that Braum first ability, I have way more health, I have better, you know, sustain, whatever. I'm fine with taking that. If Jinx takes that, it's going to do a much larger percentage of her health, so it's a pretty big issue. You can see here, this is going to be the first issue, is we go for this, and then I don't flash quick enough, you're going to see, and I die here. So this death, basically, because I get caught by that, and I get stunned by the Lucian because I flash late. This is where, again, you see our lane's going bad, and then someone else died, I forget who, and then another teammate died. So yeah, all of our lanes are losing. We've died in every single lane at this point, so very bad early game, right? So that's kind of why we want to, again, focus on this type of game. Like I said, I make a lot of mistakes in the early game. Definitely could have played much better, but regardless, again, we'll be focused largely on the kind of playing around hyper carries. So overall, the first thing, again, as we were kind of talking about, is body blocking, using your positioning to block spells or block key abilities. I mean, spells and abilities are the same thing, but you get what I mean. Or just in general, putting yourself in front of your teammate. Like most of the time as the Thresh, for example, you're going to want to be slightly in front of your hyper carry so that your hyper carry can freely walk forward. And you kind of walk with them. You match, you know, when they walk forward, you walk forward. When they're walking back, you're kind of walking back, and you're generally trying to kind of pay attention to their positioning. Because again, when you're the engage, you're looking more for the enemy spells. So you're like, okay, the enemy used this key ability or this spell. Now I can go forward, and I'm kind of going to be fine because it's gone. But when it comes to having a hyper carry, you're a lot more concerned with, again, their own abilities, their own spells. So for example, here, if we go back, right, my teammate, he's getting caught. He has cleanse, he has flash. If I try to body block right here, I will die because I'll get hit by Braum passive. I don't have flash, I'm just gonna die. So in that case, it's actually better to let my Jinx take the stuff because he has a way out. I don't have a way out, right? So like sometimes it is going to be better. Again, this is early game, but sometimes it's going to be better to let them actually use their spells, use their abilities to get out. Sometimes it's going to be better to peel for them yourself. And then another thing I kind of want to mention just is this specific lane phase. We're in kind of a losing matchup overall, so we're not trying to do anything crazy. We're mostly playing pretty passive, and that's a lot of times how it's going to be with a hyper carry. You're just kind of playing to scale. You can take autos and trades when the enemy give you the opportunity to trade, but you're not trying to overforce until jungle or mid or someone rotates. So like in this situation, you can see the first time we're being a lot more aggressive is when we get a rotation from a teammate, and that's what leads to something beneficial. Again, obviously I made the mistake earlier of that death, and that death I wouldn't really say was aggression. It was just us trying to squeeze a scuttle out because we thought we had time. And turns out we were just a bit, you know, greedy there. But in terms of actually timing your aggression and whatnot, you definitely, again, want to base it a lot more around jungle pathing when you're the weaker lane. Because if you're the weaker lane, you don't really have a big advantage. You're not going to be constantly trading, because if you're just constantly trading, a Lucian and a Braum, for example, are going to destroy you as Jinx and Thresh. So you want to really base it around when, again, our Wukong was there, our Caston was there. It makes a lot more sense to trade on those types of timers. So this is just how to kind of get your teammate ahead early. Again, this isn't really the focus of the video, but obviously we're just going to kind of go through the entire game. So then another thing is Lantern usage. This is for Thresh, but different abilities, you know, different champions have different abilities that peel. Obviously Braum shield, just CC in general as any tank. or if you're like a Lulu or someone, you have your shielding, you have your polymorph, these different types of spells. Here I should have thrown my lantern on my teammate. I was kind of like thinking like, oh, he's probably already dead. He survived way longer than I thought, and I'm like, oh, I could actually lantern him. Regardless, again, the lantern usage, so sometimes you're going to want to position, for example, as a Thresh farther away from your teammate so you can lantern them. So for example, if I had lantern there, I can flash out lantern my teammate. I mean, I didn't have it up, but these are the types of things that you can do. I don't remember, did I have it up or like, no, yeah, I didn't have it up because I used it earlier in the fight then. So I mean, again, poor lantern usage there. Frankly, like I could have, you know, saved it for a better situation. So definitely, again, a lot of mistakes early game. Not a perfect early game by any means by me, and this leads to, again, the game being kind of in, you know, a more negative spot early on. But as it relates to the lantern usage, again, you can even do it in situations like this, of course, where the enemy end up overextending, and so we're able to get a kill off of it. Unfortunately, my ignite gets the kill at the end, but these types of situations as well where the enemy overextend kind of relates to the tempo concept of the video from yesterday. Basically, again, the thing is you abuse the enemy tempo, and this is where you can see the Jinx starts to become, you know, strong, getting plates and getting the whole turret. So just abusing the enemy tempo, they end up overstaying too long after getting an advantage, and then we're able to kind of get the advantage to us now. So this is where Jinx again starts to get very, very fed, and this time we end up giving the kill. So you can see I don't ever obsess over giving kills to my teammate as Thresh. It's just not something I really, on any support that I do, because the main benefit is getting the kill at all to get the gold. Like you saw when I got the first kill on the Braum there, or well, it was my second kill, that allowed us to get multiple turret plates and the turret and a bunch of gold for minions. Like that mattered way more than Jinx getting that kill. But if I see an absolutely free kill like the one on Lucian, I will give it to my teammate. Like again, giving it to hypercarry is definitely ideal if the hypercarry gets the kill. It's just not something to obsess over, but it is good when you can do it. And so in that situation, I did it. And now we have a very fed Jinx. And so this is kind of where, again, the game shifts towards, okay, protect the Jinx at all costs, and we're probably going to be okay. And so again, this is kind of going to be the first team fight where you'll see us sort of positioning in a way where we want to protect Jinx. Watch like how I'm standing in front of her, kind of trying to make sure that the enemy use their spells on me. And then once their spells are used on me, it's obviously a lot easier for Jinx to do whatever she wants. So here we land a nice hook on Morgana. You can just see I'm positioning, again, in front of the Jinx. Because the Morgana ults me, I end up proto-belting out because I don't want to get hit by her ult for no reason. But then again, you're going to watch, we step forward again. I'm just putting myself in front of the Jinx. That means Morgana root hits me. The Nocturne damage is focused on me. And Jinx is able to play this fight completely full health. And I'm the one taking the damage. Again, it's fine for me to be taking. My health bar ideally goes to almost 0 during a fight, and Jinx just stays very high. Like that is what I want to have happen. That's why we have Warmogs as well, because it allows us to get back into a fight in a situation like this, where then we can be right back on our Jinx. Not, you know, I'm not low HP, and then we're able to easily protect her there again. I wish I could tell you guys that I meant to get hit by that Morgana root, but that one just hit me just cuz. But you can even just see there the positioning. If I'm in front of the Jinx, I'm not saying that I'm purposefully going to dodge every spell, or purposely get hit by every spell, rather. Obviously, I don't want to get hit by spells, but it's better that I'm the one getting hit by them in these situations, and that's why that positioning in front means I'm taking the brunt of the damage. Jinx can auto-attack really well, and that type of thing. So again, this is something you're really going to be doing when you notice your teammate's actually strong, not just something you do every game. Sometimes you do need to play more for engages and preserve your own HP. Kind of depends on the situation, but again, when you have your hyper carry like a Jinx who you notice is really fed, this is how you're going to want to play. And then here I just want to note that I wait until Nocturne decides to ult to maybe flash, because if he ults me and I flash, then he'll ult me over the wall and I'll die. So instead I wait until it hits me and then I flash, but you're going to see it doesn't hit me. So instead I decide to just sit here and wait for Warmogs to proc, because nobody's actually hurting me and my Warmogs are just going up and up. And then this patience you're going to see leads to a really, really good fight, because I'm just trying to bait them here. I know my teammates can go over the wall at this point, and I'm going to flash eventually if I think I'm going to die. But here I get out a Braum ult, then my teammate's actually able to go over the wall, and we're able to get multiple kills out of this. So you can see that patience and that use of Warmogs ended up actually being really, really good for winning that fight. And our Lantern got the Wukong out as well. That's not really related, again, to the concepts of this video, but obviously, you know, we'll still mention some good things that we do. And then I miss my flay on Morgana because I'm just a goat like that. But again, even here, just making sure that we also want to CC the person in front of, or that's attacking our teammate is important. But I want to note a mistake here. And this is where you see sometimes you lose sight of what is really important in the fight, and then you go too far. So here as Thresh, you're gonna watch, you see I keep going on the Volibear, I'm playing too far up, and then Lucian you're gonna see goes onto the Jinx. So this is where spell tracking, which again, and I know I'm pausing here, but this kind of just makes it easier to explain this way. But spell tracking as a sort of peel support, or in a game where your hypercarry is really fed, is extremely important for paying attention to how they're going to hit your teammate rather than how they're going to hit you. So if we look here, say that I'm the Jinx in my mind, right? I'm not currently thinking, oh, Volibear is a big threat, because Volibear has to first ability all the way and run, and he's too far to do that. He's not going to hit the Jinx. But Lucian can very easily dash on the Jinx and then go on her. So in this situation, my focus should be this Lucian. He's also a squishier target, easier to kill, and keeping him off of my teammate, and then probably just landing a hook on Volibear, because Volibear is then just going to be stunned in place. But instead, you see I overfocus Volibear, and I don't throw my Lantern onto the Jinx here, so Jinx ends up getting caught. And you're going to see that kind of be an issue in a second when Lucian shows up. I Lantern on me instead of on Jinx, and then because of that, Jinx ends up dying. So you can see this type of positioning as well. Definitely some mistakes made, not being aware enough of positioning of enemy relative to my carry, being too concerned about my own self. Again, this is typically how I'm playing solo queues, a lot more selfish as a support, because that's naturally how you want to play a majority of situations, but you have to know how to adjust when games do call for it. And you can see that kind of mistake there leading to a dead Jinx, which is obviously not good when she's your she's your main carry. Sorry, I just choked on air there. I don't know what happened. But yeah, then here, nothing too complicated. Just throwing my hook around, landing it on someone. And yeah, I mean, again here, really just pretty straightforward. We see someone, so we try to kill them. Obviously, there's not really much more to talk about there. Yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, it's like freezing cold in my dorm room right now, and so my throat is like insanely dry. So that's my excuse for my voice cracking and whatever. But here again, just putting ourselves in a position where Jinx can pretty easily, you know, make plays. Like, once again, another thing you want to do, it's not only about protecting your hypercarry, but it's also making plays for your hypercarry, and making sure that when you're CCing someone, your hypercarry is in range to damage them. Like, you don't want to go all in on someone. And you also see I'm always kind of standing near him when the Nocturne ults, just in case. But you don't want to CC someone when your teammates have no ability to follow up. I mean, this is always the case, but it's especially the case when you have a hypercarry who that's your entire damage. Like, it doesn't matter if I use my flash hook, ult, everything, and then one person dies, but my Jinx isn't part of it, because then she's not getting resets, and that's how we're really going to win a fight. Like, we're not going to win a fight for my Wukong getting one kill or something. It's all about the Jinx, and when it's all about one person, understanding that is pretty important. And then notice how I'm also following her to waves. I'm using my Lantern to make sure she gets to as many waves as she can. Again, just like following her on side lanes so she doesn't get caught out, that type of thing, rather than grouping mid with my team. So you see how a lot of games I would group mid with my team and just play to snowball that. But with this Jinx here, I'm a lot more focused on facilitating her, bringing her to the side lanes, getting her as much gold as possible, and then coming late to the fights, but in a situation where my Jinx is able to follow up, and that's what ends up leading to us getting Jinx an early reset there, and then we're able to get a flash hook off. So again, you see how all of these plays that I'm making are just with the Jinx, like, and that's what leads to the triple kill. That's what leads to us getting, I believe we get the Baron off this, and then obviously here I'm just zoning so they can't steal. Nothing too complicated there. So again, you just see the difference in gameplay. When we're strong as the Thresh and our team is generally winning, or even at least, we can kind of group in mid lane a lot more, as you saw in some of my previous videos, and we can just focus a lot more on getting mid prio and using mid prio to rotate. But again, when you have that fed hypercarry ADC, it's a little different with how your rotations are. But then you definitely want to group around mid once the Baron's spawning. Obviously, we got Baron here. Unfortunately, Jinx does get caught. Not really anything we could have done to stop her getting caught. She was a bit too overextended. Like, you don't need to necessarily obsess over every, you know, like, you don't have to literally follow them for every moment in time. If he gets caught on a mid wave like that and you needed to reset, like, that's not, you know, something to worry about, because people will kind of obsess over these things and I'll be like, oh, like, this is what you have to do. They'll try to do it every single time, but some situations don't necessarily call for it. And then here, another important thing to note is that you don't really want to fight when your hypercarry is dead, obviously. Like, here, my goal was never really to fight. I was kind of just stalling for Warwick so he can get free turret. But even there, you know, I slightly overextend and I almost get caught there. Could have been a bit of an issue, but definitely, like, being patient when your teammate does die, especially your fed carry, whatever, kind of just wait for them to respawn and then play from there. So here even, I mean, my Warwick's not yet here, so we're kind of just waiting for him. but we want to, again, make sure Jinx is always in a position to actually follow up in fights before we're really going forward. This isn't the best fight to play, but you can see how I'm positioning in a way where Jinx, again, I am in front of Jinx at all times. I'm just standing near her, CCing people for her. I'm not trying to go super deep into this fight because I know the fight is losing. Like, my teammate already died early, pretty much right as the fight broke out. But here we do find a nice little pick for the Jinx here. And again, you can see pretty much my entire gameplay revolves around this Jinx. Like, everything I'm doing is to protect her, facilitate her. I don't care if my other teammates go in and die, because again, usually if an early game goes bad like this and you're the only, ones who are strong, like the Jinx in this case, your other teammates are probably not very good. Like the Warwick, the Wukong, etc. They're probably not playing very well if they fall behind. Maybe if you fall behind on Kassadin, that's a bit more reasonable. But Warwick and Wukong, more often than not, you made mistakes if you fell behind. And so when those people fall behind, they're probably going to continue to make those silly plays like the Warwick going in there for no reason. And you don't want to just follow up and go die with them. You're just playing to, again, salvage the fight to some extent. Stay around that Jinx. Stay around that carry. And again, you guys can kind of see at this point, the main things that you need to focus on are positioning in a way where the spells are not going to hit your, your fed carry. Make sure you're making engages in a way where your carry can follow up. Make sure you're not engaging when your carry is dead or recalled. Make sure you bring your carry to the side lanes when you can, especially when there's no objective up, so that they're able to farm sides rather than just grouping mid. Just make sure you can get them as much gold as possible. And those types of things are going to be the most important overall. And then again here, the reason I ended up making engage, obviously we find a pick. Sometimes you're going to find a pick and then, everything kind of goes away, right? Like I found that hook on Morgana, so I go on her. I don't need to necessarily protect my Jinx at literally all points in time. Like there, it was totally fine to actually go a bit further forward. And then here we just find some good picks. So again, it's not like you have to obsess. Like they are a human being. If they're the one who got fed, they're probably not that bad. Like the Jinx is okay. And when that's the case, like if you find an engage, you can still go on it. It's not like you literally just have to sit next to them the entire game. And that's why people kind of have a hard time, shifting from one mindset to the other. But here again, just simple, making sure we're sticking with the Jinx, letting her get what she can, have the lantern for her, make sure she can get out. All of these simple things just lead to the Jinx getting way, way more fed. And yeah, obviously, overall, we're in a pretty good spot at this point. Itemization can also, like if you're an enchanter, you go like Ardent Censer, obviously. If you're a tank, you can go Protector's Vow. I think Protector's Vow could have been okay this game, honestly. However, I'm not the biggest fan of it most games. I generally prefer this, just being tankier, because I feel like if I'm tankier, that's kind of going to just make us able to win the game harder anyway. But again here, teammates die for no reason, so all I'm doing is I'm just sitting around Jinx, making sure that we can at least stall for Kassadin to get something. And because it's Jinx, I do have a chance of getting this steal, so we do end up, trying to see if we can fight. And then here again, you see my positioning. I walk away from her and I lantern her. Whereas normally you're going to walk towards her. Obviously, since I'm Thresh, I walk away from her and lantern her so that when the volley bear does go on her, I'm able to protect her. You see how I'm just the one tanking the brunt of the spells. I'm walking forward. Earlier on, we hooked the bush to make sure that no one was camping the bush for her. So just keeping track of those simple things, making sure we're checking the bushes, walking forward, the positioning so that, again, when volley bear is going on her, I can lantern her out. Whereas if you're, say, a Lulu, you just polymorph a volley bear as he's walking in. So it just depends on your champion, how your spells work. Janna, obviously, Q them or ult them away. So you need to position differently based on how your champion's abilities work. Braum, of course, is going to shield. Like, whoever you are, you have to understand how your champion specifically where you want to stand to protect your teammate in that way. But again, just this constant positioning, being focused on Jinx. So even here, like me taking control of this bush is just letting Jinx walk forward a bit. And she does almost get hit by the root, but you can see because I'm just walking forward in that bush, Jinx can walk forward a little bit. Obviously, we can't stop her from getting, poked out pretty hard there. But we can make sure to CC the people who try to jump on top of her. So when volley bear is jumping on top of her, we're just simply CCing him and then hooking that volley bear and playing around, killing him gets her that reset. Unfortunately, again, the enemy do dive onto us. They have a pretty good dive comp with the Nocturne, but because we did play that fight decently enough, we're still in an okay spot. And then luckily us and Warwick are able to kind of clean up because we land a lot of hooks and then hook a minion afterwards, because why not hook a minion every now and again? So again, it works out decently. You can see it's definitely not played perfect by me. As I said, this is definitely not my best play style as a player. This is something I need to work on, and I'm glad that I made this video because it kind of made me be like, oh, these are some things I need to keep in mind when I do end up having a fed ADC. Definitely a bit more focus on spell tracking specifically. when my carry is fed, like making sure I know who's dangerous to my carry, putting myself in their shoes rather than being a bit overly concerned with my own gameplay, which is often a symptom of being a solo queue player. So that's something important to keep in mind for sure as well. And yeah, I mean, overall, you can see again the fights are still going pretty well. When they have a lot of dive, we're just making sure that we're in a position where we can try to CC the people off of our teammate. Not always possible. You can't literally save your teammate's life at all points in time. It's just not possible. But we try our best to do that. We use our lanterns, we position properly, and that's pretty much how it goes. There's not too much more to say after that. Here I'm just trying to get Thornmail. I want to make sure I can get that before the objective, so I grab it, I recall, and then we just set up for the objective. So also getting vision before the objective starts is really important, just to make sure your teammate can walk forward without being, worried of every bush. So we get the wards cleared, we make sure to get a ward over the wall, and we are again just positioning ourselves in a way that the Jinx is able to play the game pretty easily, making sure we get control of the bushes, everything like that. And again, the Nocturne ults, so we just stand near him or near the Jinx. Unfortunately, one of our teammates, I think, does go pretty far forward. But again, even just throwing the lantern there, lantern doesn't end up, getting taken by Jinx, but that was kind of the goal, was to get her to take the lantern, but it was like a little off. And then something that's equally as important is knowing when to let them die. Like here, Jinx is not going to live this and is not going to carry this fight. Like, she is already dead. I'm not going to try to protect her and stop every spell from hitting her. At some point, you just have to back off yourself. Realizing that is also something that's really important. As much as you're going to be concerned with protecting that AD carry, sometimes they get caught like that. They take a bunch of damage and he's already dead before the fight starts. And when that happens, preserving your own life means you can stall, right? Like, my main goal here at this point is just stall the game. Don't let them end. If I had died there, they very likely could have ended through mid. But with me alive, it's at least like that little bit of, maybe 3 to 5 to 10 extra seconds that we can stall. And that leads to just having a possibility of winning. Again, not very likely, but small possibility. Here we realize we can't really do anything, so we just push out the wave and are basically just trying to stall. I'm kind of going to skip through a lot of this because it's pretty much just them pushing with Baron. And once again, we just stand near the Jinx. When we're trying to protect the waves, I mean, all we can do is pretty much just sit here and kind of stall. Nothing more about it, nothing more to learn from it. Just, again, sitting around Jinx, making sure she's able to wave clear, throwing the lantern to her so she can get out, as you see here, so she can go and clear the wave when someone jumps on her, making sure I'm there to CC them, pressure them, whatever. But obviously, not much you can do defending a base like this. You just pretty much have to let them do it. So again, there's not too much specific to learn from this part of the game, but as you're going to see, luckily we are able to kind of stall it out long enough that we have another chance at possibly winning. So definitely a little messy again here, just trying to get the lantern so Jinx has that little dash that she can get to me. She doesn't take it, keeps taking damage, and then eventually does get dove on. So again, like, not really anything we can do to stop a Jinx from dying here. She just ends up staying up with low HP. Some things, just happen. So equally as important to understand that you can't protect them at all times, but also understanding how it is possible to protect them. And in these situations, just could have had, in certain situations, better lantern usage or stood in better places and been more aware, again, of those certain threats to my ADC. Definitely the main kind of things to learn from this video overall. But at this point, again, we're just pretty much stalling, and then if we see someone get caught, we go for them. So all that really happens here is my teammates end up finding a nice pick onto the Nocturne, and then we find a blind hook onto the Lucian because we did have his ults to kind of indicate to us, and then we're able to hook. Again, just pretty good target priority there, going on the Morgana instead of the Braum, and from here the fight is quite won. So this fight and this win didn't necessarily relate specifically to protecting our carry here. We just found some people who got caught out and through. We definitely should have lost this game given the state we were in, but you can see throughout the video how we were able to use kind of that peel overall just to protect our carry properly. Here we get Elder Baron and we win a pretty easy fight because we have Elder and Baron. Not really much to talk about. They FF. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this because it's a bit of a different topic than most of my support videos, which are a lot more focused on carrying as support by yourself. But again, this game is a lot more team oriented. And yeah, we're at, I think, 85 or 84 marks. I think I'm at 84 marks on support. So we're about 16 marks from getting Sovereign. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.